That's a very cool story about Rackspace and Managed Cloud and the Object Rocket data platform that we've built, and we're so proud to be a part of the Tender story. It's a cool story, and I hope they have the best of luck in terms of scaling that thing to the next billion people. Just as data is a big part of that Managed Cloud, so is DevOps. DevOps is a word you probably hear more and more as you think about new and modern applications and being agile. DevOps helps companies scale by automating all the things in the environment. And here with more on Rackspace DevOps is the GM of the Rackspace DevOps division, Prashanth Chandrasekar. Prashanth, would you come up and share the story?
All right, it's great to be here back in San Francisco at Solve. Thank you for joining. It's also very, very exciting to talk about this topic very specifically around cloud scale apps and how we help our customers really run them and manage them for them. And very specifically using this concept around DevOps, which many of you in the room obviously are very close to, understand the cultural implications of what that movement's all about. So very excited just in general. So before I bring on David Lieberman of Omaze, which is a phenomenal company, and is a phenomenal guy, and he's really building something really, really great. I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk about how we help customers around this concept, just to set the stage for you guys. So to kick things off, a few years ago, there was this really great seminal article that The Economist published. I'm a big Economist fan, so this I thought captured the moment of the era that we're in really, really well. So this is a multi-decade transformation that traditional industries are going through, just the influence of the digital world, where traditional industries are going from what they used to do to a fairly digital experience online with access to all this raw compute, networking, and storage. So the subtle point, though, on this cover is this person that has to make it happen, right? So that is where we get really empathetic about that person, because it's really folks like you in the room, the developers, the ops people, and you've got this phenomenal challenge in front of you to make this happen in a very, very competitive environment. So I thought it captured what we're talking about very well. The interesting thing, this is happening across every potential industry, right? You'll hear from Omaze talk about it in the giving space. You see Airbnb, Uber. Most of you probably, like me, probably consumed most, if not half of these, today, perhaps, right, on our way here. So it's just interesting how much disruption there is in the industry. So as a company, if you're an incumbent in the space, you have this choice to disrupt yourself. Or if you are a new company like Omaze or like any of these guys, they've made a choice to actually disrupt the existing incumbents. Or, the third choice is to get disrupted. So that is never something that somebody wants. So that's why this whole concept of moving very, very quickly, iterating to success. You heard Ryan from Tinder talk about how doing one thing very, very specifically well, and then getting to that product market fit. That's the pursuit, right? And so we want to help. We understand that that's a challenge of fast-moving companies, and we want to help them get to that product market fit very quickly. This is, I'm sort of preaching to the choir. If most of you guys are from here, so. On the left side is, when you think about, a decade ago, so we're talking about a very traditional waterfall software development process. But that's moved away. Like a lot of customers that we deal with on our team, for example, have absolutely adopted the model on the right. A lot more of an agile process. That term has existed for over a decade, but in reality, it's never been something that people could have taken advantage of until this moment, because you have all this compute that's completely ephemeral. You have concepts like DevOps, where your dev and ops teams are working very, very closely together, and you're forced to think about, how do I make sure that my code is in a constantly deployable state? How do I continuously test it? And essentially, this whole model of DevOps, going from planning all the way to operating and really iterating very, very quickly literally on a daily basis to stay very close to your customers and their needs. Another this is from our friends at Chef, which I think I always like to look at this, because it tells me where we are, where we are in this cycle, where you've gone from this mainframe era all the way to the cloud era. And Rackspace, we made our our mark in the 2000 era, and we're continuing to do that now. But a lot of companies here, even you guys, would probably have an element of your environments, and some traditional enterprises have mainframes that are still running, but all the way to the cloud. But the reality is, it has become an absolutely complicated world with this, complete proliferation of compute and virtual compute, or virtual nodes. And the ability for you to manage these very, very tricky variables is not something that we take lightly. We want to help our customers do that because you're talking about speed, size and complexity and speed, and at the same time, stability and reliability. And you heard, again, Tinder and Ryan from Tinder talk about how crazy of an experience that is to kind of keep ahead of the curve. So we know that that's a challenge, and we want to help our customers do that. So going back to kind of when this started, back in the late 2000s, and Rackspace was very much part of this movement, building our own public cloud, for example. These companies, and there's kind of a handful here like Flickr and Facebook, who really talked about these core concepts around the cultural movement around DevOps. And so it's not a tool set. It's a movement that basically says, make your dev teams and your op teams work really, very closely. Let's not point fingers. And it's all about this term around blameless postmortems came around making sure that it's constructive and getting close to your customers, and let's just get to the end zone of keeping these highly available environments operational. So infrastructure automation, performance monitoring, open source tools, because you need the open source movement to keep developing these fast-growing these concepts. And then you've got these distributed applications where you treat your resources like cattle, but not like pets, like as that analogy goes. They also use a whole bunch of these tools that we've become now very familiar with, and these have become now the de facto way in which companies build their cloud scale applications. Everything from Chef for infrastructure automation, GitHub for social code collaboration, RabbitMQ for queuing. So kind of the list is fairly robust, but interestingly, so there's a fairly even though this universe is growing every day, and that's it's a fairly complex world for a customer to kind of maneuver, because you have to be very, very quick to say, I'm going to choose this tool, and I'm going to use it for a very, very specific reason. We at Rackspace, we want to help our customers do that. So going away from where we were back in the late 2000s, now DevOps, I think, is very much becoming a mainstream kind of concept. From a cultural perspective, people understand that's something that they have to really kind of drive in their organizations, in their IT organizations or developer organizations. And it's going to be a lot more prominent because as more and more companies move to the cloud, this is important. And the research proves it, right? This is from our friends at Puppet, who basically talk about how much more effective it is when you adopt DevOps principles and tools and methodologies, et cetera. We're talking about speed to deploy. You're talking about for a significantly lower number of failure rates in terms of deploying code. You're able to generate a lot more. You're faster in terms of lead times. You're much closer to your customers, and then the financial metrics will just speak for itself, just because you're more competitive and iterating to that success point. We also ran our own research. You can access this, at Rackspace. But the kind of the statistics are very, very telling. It basically says that there's an extremely material incremental benefit of actually saying reduction in downtime failures. You have extremely high customer engagement and conversion because you're very close to them as a result of pushing code into production very quickly in response to what they want. And Rackspace now, if you want to run a cloud scale app, we basically say we can do that, and we can do that we can do that in a helpful way for you. We basically put you into this service level, which is called DevOps automation, where we basically do all this for you. We basically automate your application environments. We monitor it very deeply. So we take all the burden of kind of the notion of managing your kind of DevOpsified environment off your table, so you can just focus on writing code and being a developer and like really getting close to your customers. And so this is the complexity, right? So this is the notion of saying, do you want to manage this on your own, because there's a fair number of things that you have to think about internally for you to do this on your own, or do you lean on a partner like us to basically help you essentially do all these things: automation, monitoring, log aggregation, source control. And you'll hear again, David from Omaze talk about how we do this for them and other customers. And so you see, like, these are very, very common, everything from traditional web frameworks like Rails and Python and Node.js, where we have experts on our team to basically help you build your infrastructure and your application based on those frameworks, and even app frameworks like Magento, which you'll see an example of, and using these open source technologies. So my kids are big Lego fans, so this is kind of in honor of them, I suppose. But so the end result is that we want to, in a cloud era, it's very important for us to essentially stamp out very, very identical kind of boxes that are, configured exactly the same way. And for you to do that in a manual way, it's sort of a crazy notion in a cloud era, right? So that's why we very much think about the world as this, where we say stamp out the exact same, staging and production environments that match and, across data centers, across the world. If you're running this production application, you should be able to do that. And the way we do that is we treat your infrastructure like code so that you can just assume that it's just going to work, and it is going to work. And this is kind of an example. It's a sneak preview of our demo this afternoon around how we help customers run their cloud scale apps. So this shows you how we manage it on our side. This is an example of a Magento application that we're basically deploying in real time. And you can see how simplistically, and that's basically dynamically building code behind the scenes, where we're pulling these components. And this could be any application. It could be a PHP application. It could be a Node.js application. But we're essentially building an infrastructure environment in real time, which is completely automated using Chef. And we're essentially connecting these pieces, whether it's a load balancer or a database or the actual, or a caching layer like Redis. And we're essentially building it real time. So that is, it's a very powerful thing because you're able to do it instantaneously, and you're able to do it in a very, very standardized way. So we're very excited about that. If you want to learn more about the nerdy bits, as my, product leader would say, you can learn more about that this afternoon. And finally, I want to tell you that we recognize that in a cloud app, in a cloudy era or cloud era, that traditional ways of actually interacting and for us to be truly useful for our customers, we want to move away from very traditional ways of actually interacting with our customers. So tickets, for example, is a good example, is one that we can talk about, where we believe that for you to move faster, we want to operate on your terms, on the customer's terms. So example here, where you can see David of Omaze on the left, and that's Jim on our team, essentially interacting completely in ChatOps using Slack, right? And so he has direct access to our team. All his functions are performed real time, instantaneously, and this is an example of something that we essentially committed code directly in Slack, where we spun up an entire staging environment when a request came through. All that was performed real time with a Racker on our team and with a customer, and that happens in a very, very short and a highly iterative fashion. So we operate on your speed. And finally, just to kind of wrap things on and how we interact with our customers, it's a schematic to tell you that we have this large team on our side who's highly trained on all these technologies that we just talked about, and we're essentially an extension of your team, and we do that using things like Slack. We're constantly monitoring this on a 24/7 basis. We're there in a proactive sense. The moment that there is, whether it could be an AppTech score alert in New Relic that pops based on a certain kind of threshold level that we set with our customers, that triggers our team to actually activate immediately. And so companies like Omaze get tremendous leverage through our team, because they don't have to staff these people overnight. We are essentially an extension of their team, and it works out well for them. So ultimately, I'll end on this and introduce David. We want all our customers basically to look like this, because as I mentioned in the first slide, that person's got an extremely difficult job, basically trying to dev out, as Ryan from Tinder was saying, very quickly, iteratively towards the customer kind of product market fit. So we want to do as much as we can for them. So this is how we try to help. So with that, let me transition to a quick video about Omaze, and then I'll bring David up on that.
Come to LA and crush things in my tank.
Omaze is a company that offers once-in-a-lifetime experiences with the proceeds going to charitable causes. We actually have very unique traffic in that the traffic is highly concentrated because it's generally driven by the celebrities. And what happens is you get a very large crowd of people in a pretty focused window of time. These people are highly motivated. They're very excited about the chance to ride in a tank with Arnold, or be in Star Wars, or go on a date with George Clooney. And so all these things, these people convert at a much higher rate than most other sites see. So we have conversion rates as high as 15%, 30% in these very narrow windows. We've benchmarked as high as 10,000 transactions over 2 minutes, and we have to have absolute reliability and predictability in those cases. If we don't, we're losing money, and it's bad enough when a company loses money, but we're losing social impact. We're losing the opportunity to really make a difference in the world. Omaze.com runs on Rackspace cloud servers. We run about 60 instances in varying roles. I was brought on to Omaze to really start modernizing the technology. We've obviously have great numbers and a lot of success, but at this point going forward, the scale and rate at which we're growing is just too fast. We're lacking in the flexibility necessary to implement a lot of the new product ideas and great business opportunities that we see going forward. And so my job as head of technology is to build a new custom platform and enable those opportunities. I'm really excited to have Rackspace DevOps as a part of my team. It makes a lot of sense for us to leverage Rackspace DevOps to take care of our service for us and let our devs focus on being developers. We want them developing new features and developing this new platform which will help Omaze grow in the future. With Rackspace DevOps, we really solved a lot of problems that we were having initially, even though we were already using these technologies. We were already using Chef for server automation, but we weren't necessarily as reliable about updating the configurations and testing them out and deploying them in a predictable way. When we started with DevOps, they were able to take that over and make that a reliable, predictable, scalable process that didn't require our time, which was more focused on product and feature development, was a huge win for us. So one of the best things we got to leverage right away was this wealth of knowledge that they've built up across all their customers. If we weren't working with Rackspace DevOps, we would probably have to hire 2 more people, and possibly more. I mean, the cost could be substantial. It's very clear to say the Rackspace DevOps offering has clearly got a value of 6 figures by the time you factor in the number of hours of support, the type of support we get, and the savings we get in terms of licensing. In the end, the managed cloud was substantially cheaper for us in terms of the number of hours we have to invest as a team, as well as raw dollars. Going forward, we're really excited to have Rackspace DevOps help us continue to do the things we do and continue to be lean and efficient, continue to support us in automation, make sure that the environments we set up on the server run locally in our Vagrant environments, make sure that they're well monitored and they scale responsibly to our increasingly growing traffic.
With that, I'll introduce David Lieberman of Omaze. All right.
That Arnold video never gets old. Apparently crushed the video too. And that's actually kind of what we're here to talk about, right, is that kind of traffic. So I'm David Lieberman. I'm the head of technology for Omaze. Omaze is a company operating in the social impact space. We raise money for charities by offering once-in-a-lifetime experiences, much like what you saw in those videos. And we're just really excited about the kind of model that we've built. And so this model is based off similar to a raffle, where people donate money and in return receive a number of chances to win. When people donate at higher donor levels, we kind of do the Kickstarter donor reward idea as a further way to say thank you. So typically, like at the $100 level, we'll offer you a campaign-specific t-shirt. So this really enables us to do something very different in the charitable space. First of all, it's been shown that we've been able to collect more users and get more people to donate charity than typically would. The people who are donating to these campaigns are actually not people who normally contribute money to charity in the standard methodologies. So obviously this provides a huge benefit to the charities we work with, but it's exciting to know that we're getting people excited about causes that they genuinely care about. So the traditional model for a lot of these charities in terms of how they raise money is they go offer these gala events or these buy plates at a dinner. Maybe they'll do a silent auction or a traditional auction. And so in this case, we had 4 partners which we worked with in the past that did this traditional auction model and raised a good amount of money. But after running a campaign on Omaze, they earned 5 to 25 times more. So we're really providing some meaningful disruption in the space of social impact. So the way we accomplish this is not purely just off the technology, although that's a key portion, but we offer a number of services as well to help market and support these campaigns. The big one is obviously the video production, which you just saw. We do a lot of social media and traditional marketing. But lastly, another really key point is we've gone through the legal process to make sure that we can run these campaigns globally as well in all 50 states. So we've got this legal infrastructure in place which lets us continue to draw from a bigger and bigger base of potential donors. So our key example of this was we partnered with Disney, and they launched a new charitable initiative called Force for Change. And Force for Change was tied to the launch of the new Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. And the proceeds of this campaign went to UNICEF Innovation Labs. We were able to raise $4.26 million, and those donations came from 125 different countries. That same campaign also generated 1.1 billion media impressions, and the video content we produced in aggregate had over 20 million views. So again, what makes us different? We have really spiky traffic, and that in of itself I don't think makes us different. I think a lot of businesses face this nowadays, and I think it's an artifact of social media marketing. You go post on Facebook, and other people share, and then they hear about it, and so you kind of get these big sort of flows depending on as different influencers get to the certain crowd that is motivated by that traffic that shows up. And because this has sort of been going on and social media marketing is a much better understood practice than it was 10 years ago, there have been a lot of solutions in place to solve this issue. So we cache pages, we cache data or fragments of pages. We also use third-party services. We store at CDNs, or we use whatever your video provider of choice, like YouTube, to store your video content. So we've solved a lot of the product with regard to the static content. What gets really challenging is we need to start measuring things that can't be cached. And in our case, that's transactional data. Unfortunately, you can't cache the actual charge someone's credit card. And in the case of Omaze, because people are so highly motivated, so excited about these campaigns, you'll see, I've provided a chart here with a conversion rate. There's hours where we'll see conversion rates that are pretty much unheard of in just about every other space. And so because we're converting at this 2 to 8 times rate of e-commerce, we act like a site that's 2 to 8 times bigger in the area you can't use all the same caching techniques that you would elsewhere. This traffic is still focused in these narrow windows because of the nature of virality. Big spike, and then it tails off. Our initial platform is using off-the-shelf parts. So this is how the business was formed and the business was proven. We're able to achieve the benchmarks that were mentioned in the video, 10,000 transactions, scaled over 5 minutes. And if you back that out over to the course of a day, it's pretty ridiculous. It's 8 million sessions and 16.5% conversion rate. Now, we're obviously not doing that, right? But the idea is you're able to get off-the-shelf architecture to have some really meaningful performance numbers with the technologies that are available at hand. So this is a graph showing the growth of the company sort of up until January, and you can see one of my old bosses used to call this directionally correct. It looks really healthy. And I've labeled this gray line here, which you can see, and that's when we launched Star Wars. So we saw we got a really healthy bump. And sort of what happened as a result of Star Wars, we were really faced with some interesting questions. The first one being, we knew that off-the-shelf parts were no longer going to provide us with the flexibility we needed to develop our brand going forward. We know we want to make more products, more features, and really continue to delight our customers and drive that experience to expand the potential donor base. So one choice we had was to start working on a custom platform and then develop new product features. The other choice was that we have a large user base and a large number of traffic numbers already. We need to maintain those numbers and deliver the most value for our partners based off our existing business. And so our engineering culture is one of pride and professionalism. We want to be proud of the technology we're building, but we want to be professionals and know that what our partners get is truly top value. So we didn't want to have to make this choice. We wanted to be able to do both. So you'll see this orange line is when we joined the Rackspace DevOps program. Now, there was a lot of benefits we gained from this program right away. Omaze was already using Chef and New Relic as technologies at the beginning, but we weren't using either one of them very well. So we had automation with Chef, but it was only tuned for our production environment. It did not work on our staging environments or on our local development environments, so we weren't getting the true benefits of automation. Furthermore, there were a lot of issues in our cookbooks with regards to predictability, because often changes were being made on production which then weren't reflected in our cookbooks. So even though we're using the technology, we didn't get its full benefit. When we joined the Rackspace DevOps program, because we're using a lot of off-the-shelf technologies, they already had well-tuned, well-defined cookbooks designed for these things, and we're able to get an immediate benefit out of using their expertise in the industry to get that reliability. Same goes for New Relic. We were using New Relic to kind of measure a few KPIs, but we weren't really measuring all the metrics we wanted to. And we frankly just didn't have the time or the horsepower in terms of man hours to do that. So this has really allowed us to inform our scaling. When we launched Star Wars, we had 50 servers in place, and 50 application servers, and pretty soon thereafter, we were able to cut down to 5 to 10 because we just saw with more detailed monitoring, we didn't need that many. So that's a real obvious cost savings. I really want to point out, too, that because we were using both of these technologies, we were paying licensing for them. By joining the DevOps program, those licenses are included, and so we no longer have to pay those licensing costs. Vagrant support. This is the part I was most excited about as joining the Rackspace DevOps program. Prashanth talked a lot about these new technologies, which have sort of really increased the efficiency of developers, continuous integration, continuous deployment, server automation. predictability, reliability, efficiency. Vagrant is the next piece in this. And what Vagrant does is it allows you to create a virtual instance on a developer machine that has the identical configuration of an actual production machine. So this really lets your developers develop in the environment that their code will live on with the same technology stack, the same versions, and so it gives you these same sort of features of predictability and reliability, and obviously the developers feel a lot better that there's less confusion. Rackspace designs their cookbooks and was willing to work with us to make sure that all our cookbooks continue to work in this environment all the way through our development, staging, and production environments. So we truly did get that consistency. We run these global campaigns. And again, I mentioned Star Wars, 125 countries. So the 24/7 support we get is really critical. Disney, in this case, each regional chapter of Disney would promote on the local Facebook page and whatever their local time zone would be. So you can see 55% of our traffic's from the US, the remainder is international. This means we have 24 hours of promotion. It means that we have 24 hours of transactions. I don't really want to be up at 2 in the morning. It really sucks to have to tell one of your team members, like, hey, it's Friday night, you're on call tonight. Like, I don't care that you have a date with your wife. We have got a big campaign coming up, and you know, maybe you're going to have to log on and clear some disk space from old logs or something like that. And these are the things that for a team like mine, which is primarily developers and doesn't have a dedicated system administrator, really raises morale and allows us to provide that professionalism I talked about earlier. There's a couple instances too where, as being a part of the DevOps program, I saw service which was above and beyond what I originally expected. The first one you'll see on your left here is a little communication I had with Jim, who I work with quite frequently. And part of the process I mentioned is we had these legacy cookbooks, and we had to make sure that the configuration from those legacy cookbooks that were application specific made it into the new cookbooks that were being provided as part of the DevOps program. The way I expected that to work is they were going to use the cookbooks they had for the off-the-shelf products, and then on top of that we would write new ones which represented our application-specific configurations. In this case, he actually waded through all our old, broken, technical debt kind of legacy cookbooks to really understand what was happening, and he actually found a security hole that had been implemented in one of those cookbooks and sent us a patch right away. So not only did he go above and beyond by wading through our old code and our technical debt, but there was a meaningful outcome in terms of security which we gained from that. Following up again with what Prashanth said, on the right-hand side here, you'll see we've got a little interaction of me with Jim on Slack. And I don't know if you can see the timestamp there, but that's 10 p.m. my time, which is midnight his time, and we're doing database migrations. And the fact that he's willing to work with me in real time in the way that I like to work. I used to work with a lot of people in terms of operations, going through IRC, paste the command you're running, let everybody look at it, and we're kind of working in the same workflow here. And so this to me is the fact that I can work in real time the way I like to work, a really key differentiator. Going forward, what have we really learned? We're a company that's about social impact. We want to continue to grow the potential pool of donors. We want to create the largest impact possible for our charitable partners. We want to excite people, and we want to continue to build technology that does just that. We're not willing to compromise on our engineering culture. What we really want to do is be proud of what we're building, be proud of the services we're offering, but also know when we provide those at a high level, and when people work with us, they know they're getting top-notch service. We're also very open and collaborative. We want to work together. We do a lot of creative content, and part of that means being collaborative. And working with DevOps didn't require us to sacrifice, working in real time and some of these other features which are really important to us. And lastly, DevOps as a whole is critical to any business. Efficiency, reliability, predictability. It lets any business in any industry get the most out of the hours that they put in terms of how they work. So we'll continue to leverage all the pieces of DevOps going forward. So now that you've learned a little bit more about Omaze, I'm really excited for you to check out the site. We've got some really great campaigns running. We've got the opportunity to have John Legend sing at the event of your choice. We've also got the opportunity to be drawn into a Simpsons episode. And the one most people are really excited about right now is the opportunity to join Robert Downey Jr. at the premiere of the new Avengers movie. So hopefully while you're there, you'll find your dream experience and find some causes that you're truly passionate about as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Prashanth and David. I apologize for that video. It blinked out on us. To make it up to you, I'm going to channel a little bit of my own Hans and Franz impression here and tell you about that Arnold video. It's such a cool thing. He says, come to California with me and you can crush things with the tank. You can smoke cigars with me and we can work out and pump up. And that's all in the video, so go check it out on omaze.com. It's a great video. So we're up for a break now. I'm going to give you a little extra time because I know we ran a little bit long. So come back here at 11:40 sharp, right here, please. Thank you.